The night was heavy, the air thick with silence. I had finished my duties at the palace and was heading back to my small hut when I saw the king, Oba Adedeji, walking briskly toward the inner chambers. He wasn't alone. A young woman followed closely behind him, Sade, one of the palace maids. Her head was bowed, but her steps were hurried, as though she was trying to keep up with his long strides. I thought nothing of it at first. The palace was full of secrets. But then, hours later, I heard the scream. It wasn't just any scream, it was the kind that cuts through the soul, the kind that makes you stop whatever you're doing. I rushed toward the sound, but the guards blocked me from entering the chambers. "Go back to your quarters," one of them growled. His face was pale, his hands trembling. Something was wrong. The scream wasn't from the queen, Aloria Joke. It was from Sade. The story begins years before the scream. Oba Adedeji was not born to be king. He was the younger son of a lesser noble, living in the shadow of his older brother, Prince Olumide, the rightful heir. But fate has a way of twisting the path. When Olumide fell ill and died suddenly, Adedeji was thrust into the spotlight. To become king, he needed more than just the approval of the elders, he needed the blessing of the gods. That's where Sade came in. Sade wasn't just any maid. She was the daughter of a herbalist from a neighboring village, Sapati. Her mother was known for her knowledge of ancient rituals, and her skills had saved many lives. Sade inherited this knowledge, and it was said that her prayers could move mountains. One fateful night, desperate for the throne, Adedeji approached Sade. He promised her everything: wealth, power, and a place by his side, if she helped him secure the throne. Together, they performed a secret ritual, an oath before the gods. "Swear to me," Sade had whispered, her voice trembling, "that you will never betray me. If you do, the gods will take everything from you." "I swear," Adedeji replied, his voice steady. "I will never betray you." Years passed, and Oba Adedeji ruled with wisdom and strength. He married Aloria Joke, a woman of noble birth, and their union was celebrated across the land. But as time went on, their joy turned to sorrow. Aloria Joke bore him children, but they were all female. While the king loved his daughters, the elders grew restless. A king without a male heir was a king without a secure legacy. Whispers began to circulate through the kingdom. Will the throne pass to another family? They murmured. Ajoke, desperate to give her husband a son, visited priests and herbalists. She fasted, prayed, and made sacrifices, but no son came. Her frustration grew, and so did the tension in the palace. It was during this time that Sade returned to the king's life. She had never left the palace, but she had faded into the background, serving quietly while the king ruled. Now, she became his confidant once more. Late at night, Adedeji would visit her quarters. They spoke of the oath they had taken, the promises they had made to each other. Slowly, their conversations turned into something more. One night, under the cover of darkness, Adedeji and Sade resumed their forbidden relationship. "You promised me a place by your side," Sade whispered, her voice a mixture of anger and longing. "You will have it," the king assured her. But for now, it must remain a secret. Months later, Sade became pregnant. When Sade gave birth to a healthy baby boy, the king was overjoyed. He named the child Adewale, meaning the crown has returned home. But the birth had to remain a secret. The queen could never find out. Sade and her son were moved to a secluded house on the edge of the palace grounds. Only a few trusted servants knew of their existence. At first, everything seemed fine. The king visited them often, showering Sade and the baby with affection. But the secrecy took its toll. Sade grew resentful, and the weight of their oath loomed over them like a dark cloud. Aloria Joke was not a woman to be trifled with. She noticed the king's absences, the hurried whispers among the servants, and the unease that hung in the air. One night, she followed him. Hidden in the shadows, she watched as he entered the secluded house. When the king returned to their chambers, she confronted him. "What are you hiding from me, Adedeji?" she demanded. "Nothing," he replied, avoiding her gaze. But the queen was relentless. She bribed servants, pieced together fragments of conversations, and finally discovered the truth. When the queen learned of Sade and her son, her fury knew no bounds. But her anger was not directed solely at the king. She knew of Sade's reputation as a woman of rituals and oaths. "You betrayed our union and brought a curse upon this house," she screamed. The queen went to the palace priest, who confirmed her fears. Breaking an oath made before the gods was no small matter. The gods would demand justice. Strange things began to happen. The baby fell ill, his cries piercing the night. The king grew weak, his once strong body withering. Servants whispered of shadows that moved where there was no light and voices that called out in the night. Sade, realizing what was happening, confronted the king. "You swore to me, Adedeji," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You swore before the gods that you would never betray me." "I didn't betray you," he replied weakly. "I only wanted to secure the throne." "The gods do not care for your excuses," Sade whispered. "They have come for what is theirs." That night, the baby died. Days later, Sade was found lifeless in her quarters. The king's health deteriorated rapidly. Within weeks, he was gone. This story teaches us about the consequences of deceit and the weight of broken promises. Oaths made before the gods are not to be taken lightly, and betrayal often brings destruction to all involved. I trust you enjoyed the tales. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more entertaining and informative stories. Goodbye.